Hello and a very good morning, dear students. This is your English language instructor, Dr. Iman Aib, and we'll be taking this class online. So if you've gone through the previous video that I shared, we talked about journalism in general, its principles, and I also shared a brief history of how it evolved. So the reason why I shared those videos is to just give you a warm-up session so that you know what we're going to deal with in this particular class. Now, that was just an introduction of what we need to learn about journalism in general. But since this is an English language class, we're going to learn how to write texts that are specifically used in journalism. And today, we're going to deal with one of my most favorite writings, which we call opinion pieces in the English language. Okay, so what is an opinion piece? It is generally defined as a type of written article or essay that expresses the personal views, beliefs, and perspectives of the author on a particular topic or issue. Now, over here, if you focus, it focuses on what? Personal views. So it does not necessarily have to be factual information, which I mean by it does not have to be objective. When do we write opinion pieces? We write opinion pieces when, for example, there is a certain social issue in our society. There is something related to politics, something related to culture, anything that bothers you and you really want to speak about it. And I do understand that as journalists, you will always have the urge to speak about something. But you're over here not speaking, you're writing. And you're going to use your English language skills to persuade people to believe in what you think. So, for example, let's say we're talking about equality between men and women in professional settings. And you do, for example, witness that they discriminate between men and women. For example, they give a better salary to men than women, as an instance. And you dislike this idea. So you really want to write an opinion piece on that. And this is the perfect platform for you. So in this class, we're going to learn how you can write a good opinion piece in English as a journalist. Okay, so opinion pieces are distinct from news articles. Always remember, in news articles, we generally tend to remain objective and we follow factual information. But in opinion pieces, you are not intending to provide objective reporting of facts. Instead, you offer subjective commentary and analysis. For example, when we have any football match and later on we have these opinions essays written in different platforms, these are generally called opinion pieces. Now, what is the purpose of opinion piece? It is basically to stimulate discussion. Also, to provoke thought. Provoke means to instigate, to make people think. So you've seen something happening in society and you consider it as, unacceptable. And you really want people to think over it and to instigate their mind, okay? So you use opinion writing or opinion pieces as a way to help you achieve your goal. It also engages the readers in a dialogue about the topic. So when you write opinion pieces, you also give your audience a space so that they can also share their views about the matter, whether they accept what you say or they deny it. Opinion pieces can take various forms. They can be in the form of persuasive essays. They can be known as editorials, reviews, and personal reflections. So there are 4 to 5 types, but in general, whenever you're going to write your view about a certain topic by sharing, all information needed, it is generally known as opinion pieces or an opinion piece. So now we learn how to write an opinion piece. Well, it is very simple, very easy. You just need to focus on a couple of important aspects, and if you learn these, if you master them, you're going to write the best opinion pieces. And mind you, as students of journalism, especially master students, by now you should know how to write opinion piece. And I do believe and I firmly understand that you are able to do that in Arabic. But I also want you to excel in this matter in English language as well. Okay, so let's start with learning how to write an opinion piece. So first thing first, what you do is you choose a relevant topic. Now, something that you think is very important for your society right now. It can be a contemporary issue, means something that has just happened in these days, and it can also be something in the past. But generally, because we like relevant information and we like to remain updated and we like to discuss things that are happening in the present, we like information that is contemporary, right? So it's best when you write an opinion piece about something that is contemporary, something that is currently happening in our society. Okay, so you choose a relevant topic. They also advise you to select a topic that you are passionate about or have expertise in. Most of the time, journalists consider controversial or thought-provoking subjects as they tend to attract more attention. What it means to, controversial. Controversial means that something that is not accepted, something that has caused a lot of heated debate in our society, okay? And it is thought-provoking as well. It makes everyone think, and everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to write about it. So you take that as an example. Now, for example, over here, we're going to choose a title, okay? Urgent action needed, addressing climate change for our future. Now, we know climate change is a pressing issue in our society these days. Because of climate change, we're not able to have our seasons as planned. Autumn tends to be hot like summer, and then when we need rain, we don't have rain, and when we don't need the sun, we have the sun, but when we need the sunlight, we don't have the sunlight. So what's actually happening with our climate system? This is called climate change. So it is a contemporary problem, and it is a question mark in everyone's mind. So we're going to take this as a topic and learn how you can write an opinion piece on this. Okay, the second important aspect or the step is research and gather information. So you cannot just start reflecting and writing whatever comes in your mind. That cannot be defined as an opinion piece, particularly when you are a journalist. Because we learned in the previous video, according to the principles of journalism or the laws to be followed, you need factual information. So although over here 70% of the essay is going to be based on your subjective viewpoint, on your personal stance, but at the same time you need factual information to persuade people to fully believe in you. Okay? So what you do is that you collect relevant facts, statistics, and examples that can bolster your argument. Because when you put an argument, you really need to strengthen that. And you only do that by giving factual information. For example, over here, I've collected certain aspects related to climate change, and this is how I have put them in sentences. As an example, we need to support policies that encourage recycling and sustainable practices in industries and our daily lives. So over here, I'm going to talk about policies, okay? Second, international cooperation is crucial. It means that I'm going to talk about international cooperation. And then education and awareness are also key, which means I've also gathered information from the perspective of education and awareness. Okay? Okay, now we come to the third important step in writing an opinion piece, and that is developing a clear thesis statement. Now, what's a thesis statement? It is a statement that comes in your essay, which, even if you do not read the entire essay or your opinion piece, you should be able to know what this entire piece of text talks about. That you get to know through your thesis statement. So it is not your introduction, it is not your conclusion. It is a statement that covers your entire essay in 3 to 4 sentences. So, as we know that any essay generally has 3 parts, right? So there is introduction, then there's body, and then there's conclusion. Now, what is like writing an introduction? An introduction is you begin your opinion piece with something to just introduce your reader to what you're going to talk about. It does not necessarily have to be the main point. For example, if we're talking about climate change, you can just start by talking about environment. So when you talk in general about environment, that does not mean that this is your main part of the text. It is just an introduction to grab your reader's attention and give them an idea of what you're going to talk about in your opinion piece, right? So, for example, as we've given the title of climate change, let's go through the introduction. For example, as I write, as I watch the news and witness the devastating impacts of climate change around the world, it's impossible to ignore the pressing need for immediate action. Our planet is facing an existential crisis, and it's high time we take this issue seriously. Okay? So that's how I start my opinion. That's how I start to reflect my subjective perspective of what I think about climate change. Now, if you go through this red statement, the evidence of climate change is overwhelming. We see rising global temperatures, more frequent and severe natural disasters, and the melting of polar ice caps. This is not a natural cycle, it's a result of human activity, primarily the emission of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. Okay, now if you go through the statement, you do realize that we're actually talking about climate change. Now you see? So in the initial statement, the first one, we were only introducing the reader to what we're going to talk about in the essay. But we also need to notice and realize the choice of words that I'm using over here. The choice of words is subjective. It's a bit personal. Like, for example, I say, as I watch the news, right? It's impossible to ignore. It's high time we take this issue seriously. So these words are used to emphasize on your opinion. And that is how we develop a clear thesis statement, okay? Now, there is a good way of having a strong opinion piece. So you need to realize one thing, that when you're writing an opinion piece in general, there is always this idea you should keep in mind that whatever I'm writing regarding a certain issue is my opinion. But maybe who's going to read that piece of information that I'm providing, this piece, this opinion piece, may contradict with this, may be against what I'm writing, may not approve, may not accept what I'm saying, right? So, in general, we do know that when we put an argument in front of our reader, we should always expect that they're going to give us another argument which is against what we're writing or what we're saying. So, now comes the tactic. Now you should know how I can persuade people and let them know that I'm aware, and I'm aware of the contradictions that you come up with. I'm aware that you could be against my idea. I'm aware that you could be standing in opposite point of view. So what you do, you develop a tactic in your text, and that's what we call counter arguments. What is counter argument? Is a strategy that we use to answer the arguments that could stand against our point of view. Okay, so that we call counter argument, like something that is opposite to your argument. So read this text. Despite the overwhelming scientific consensus, there are still those who deny the reality of climate change, often driven by economic interests. Now you see, this is someone who is standing against your point of view of climate change, and they do not approve that actually climate change is happening. Why? Because if they believe so, they'll not be able to do their economic activities. I mean, someone who owns a gas company obviously would want to create more and more pipes of gas, right? He or she wouldn't care about climate change. So they will never approve the idea that climate change is happening, just so that they can run their business. And you, as a journalist, should be aware that such and such kinds of perspectives and point of views and narratives will come against you. But you need to know how to counter that. By counter, I mean how you can stand firm by your opinion, right? As in, like, how you can win your argument. Now, see how we create a counter argument over here. But the fact remains, our climate is changing and it poses a grave threat to our environment, economies, and way of life. So I put the counter argument first, or the argument that stands against my perspective, and then I answered it. So this is a great way of how you could deal with a counter argument. And finally, there is a conclusion in my text where I say, the urgency of addressing climate change cannot be overstated. The longer we delay, the more severe the consequences will become. Our children and future generations deserve a healthy planet to call home. It's time to put aside political differences and act in the interest of our shared future. The time for action is now. Okay? Okay, now let's move to the next important aspect of writing an opinion piece, and that is engage your audience. You have a perspective, you have a point of view, and you want to make it clear. You want to get it through our minds. You want us to believe it. Well, you should know how you can make us so. Okay? You should know the tactic in writing, how I will believe in what you write. Okay? So, one tactic is to capture the reader's attention in the introduction. Use a compelling hook, a surprising fact, a personal anecdote, or a thought-provoking question to draw them in. So, for example, I write, so what can we do about it? As in, like, what can we do about climate change? Now, I'm the one raising a question in my opinion piece, but I'll be the same person who's going to answer it. This way, when you use the word we, you're taking your reader as part of this entire opinion piece, you consider your audience as a significant, inclusive person, part of your community. So if they're reading, they'll understand and they'll realize that they're actually part of this. Okay, I didn't say what can I do about it, because then that will be my only subjective perspective, what I will do about climate change. But I want you to take a certain action, right? I want you to do something about climate change as well. So I use the pronoun we. But I'll be the person who's going to answer the question at the same time. First and foremost, we need a rapid transition to clean and renewable energy sources. Now you see, we need. It means you and I and rest everybody who's going to read this. We are all responsible in this. Now you see? So the choice of words you make to engage your audience is very important when we're writing an opinion piece. Okay, another important thing, maintain a consistent voice. Ensure that your writing maintains a consistent and engaging voice throughout the piece. Your personality and passion should come through in your writing. So The way I write is different from the way you write, and the way you write is different from another person how they write. Everyone has a way of voicing their ideas. Everyone has a different way of communicating what they have in their mind. Some people, when you go through their opinion pieces, they sound very bold, they sound aggressive. Some of them even go savage. It means that the choice of words they're taking to write the opinion piece are very hot and are bold. But on the other hand, you'll also find people who use very polite words, nice, they sound very nice and very cooperative and very kind in the way they write. And there are some people who do not sound like anything at all. They're very neutral, they're very objective. But as we talked earlier, in opinion pieces, we cannot be objective. We have to be subjective because we're writing about our opinion. We're talking about what we think, and we want you to believe in what we think. Right? Okay, so these are a couple of examples that I added in my opinion piece, such as international cooperation is crucial. Climate change knows no borders, and we must work together with other nations to address this global issue. The Paris Agreement was a step in the right direction, but we need even more ambitious goals and commitments. Education and awareness are also key. The more people understand the consequences of climate change and how they can contribute to solutions, the more likely they are to take action. We must teach our children about the environment and inspire them to be stepwards of the earth, right? Stewards of the earth. Okay. Now, if you go through this entire paragraph, you do realize that I do sound practical, right? And I'm trying to impart certain actions. It's very action oriented, what I'm writing. It means I'm very serious. It means if I'm giving you certain actions to do, like we need to have this, we need to do this, we must work on this, it means that I really want to make a change. And which is why I have to sound slightly bold, right? Okay, now let's come to our last part of writing an opinion piece, and that is writing a conclusion. Do not think or do not assume that if you've come to the end of your opinion piece, you can go easy. No. A strong or a smart writer, a smart journalist, will always give time to their conclusion because your conclusion is the last thing that your reader is going to remember. Okay? Although we say that your introduction should be the most compelling part because maybe someone wouldn't read your entire piece, or maybe someone wouldn't go through your entire text. So just make your introduction so compelling, so good that, they will remember it forever. But trust me, if you do give a good introduction, you will need a much better conclusion. Because when they go through the introduction and they like it, they'll go through the entire essay and they'll remember your essay by the end of the last paragraph. So just know that you need to create a strong conclusion, okay? Summarize your main points in the conclusion and restate your thesis statement. So whatever you talked about in the thesis statement, that climate change is becoming a severe problem in our society, it is causing danger to Earth, and we're facing problems, we're facing diseases. You've spoken about this in the thesis statement. Just restate it. In different words, just paraphrase it, okay? So as an example, see what I write. Finally, as individuals, we can make a difference through our daily choices. We can reduce our carbon footprints by using public transportation, conserving energy, and supporting eco-friendly products and companies. Now you see over here, I'm giving recommendations. I put the problem in front of you. I told you what solutions we can do, right? The urgency of addressing climate change cannot be overstated. The longer we delay, the more severe the consequences will become. Our children and future generations deserve a healthy planet to call home. It's time to put aside political differences and act in the interest of our shared future. The time for action is now. So now you see, this is my conclusion. I'm giving certain recommendations, but I'm also stressing on the need that we must bring a change. We must think about climate change and we must bring a different perspective. We must change our habits so that, we can stop this problem. So that's how you do an opinion piece writing. There is an assignment that you have to do. It carries 5 marks. What you need to do is basically tap on this link that I've shared over here. We're going to talk about the current political scenario between Israel and Palestine. And what I want you to do is, because it is not just, I say, a conflict, it is a war, right? And it is the talk of the day. It is in everyone's mind and in front of everyone's eye. Nobody is fine with whatever happening. Everyone is restless. So it is something that people keep reading and reading about. And you as a journalist should, or may not just should, you must put your point of view right in front of the public of what you think about this, okay? So tap on this link and watch all relevant information provided on the Hamas-Israel war and Palestine's death toll, because the death number is rising every day. And this conflict, or the war between Hamas and Israel, is getting much bitter, right? So what do you think about it? What do you think about this war? And do you think that it must continue so that they could regain their freedom, or it should stop because this is dehumanizing? This is killing millions of innocent people, and we don't want that, right? So write an opinion piece, an essay of minimum 250 words. Give me what you think about it. It must have an introduction, a thesis statement, a body, and a conclusion. Okay? In 250 words, write for me an opinion of what you think about the matter. And then please submit it to the email address given over here, iman.aib93@gmail.com. And then I'll evaluate your writings, and the marks are 5. So you do have time for 1 week, and after that, the deadline is over, okay? So go through this lesson. If you have any question, please reach out to me in the chat box and I will respond. Thank you so much for listening to this class. I will see you in my next lesson. Goodbye.